Yeah, that's your name.
Squirrels got me.
Big Jim.
Yeah.
Really, 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 really cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
That's good that you think that of it, because that's what deer hunting typically is cold and fun.
Yesterday morning, I'm glassing up on the pass, and I see these deer moving, and I'm like, ooh, there's deer moving. All of a sudden, I just see this person just head down, just hauling ass, wearing shorts and a t-shirt with a pack on. And I'm like, is that Tard? My dad always talks about floating through the woods like the autumn breeze.
So Robert's
when you're
the ghost, and
275
what's
pounds, I don't know how you do that, but
the Freightliner. It's just like a creeper. You're just kind of up in the corner watching what's going on down there.
yeah,
You know,
he's like,
he's up there slapping, pissing all over everything.
is it warm yet?
How did you know the name of the actor?
That's I know.
Why did you say his name?
Hervé Villechaize.
You know what pert near means.
If you know what pert near means and you live in America, you're a redneck too.
Welcome to the Log Talk Podcast, brought to you by Pert Near Outdoors. Big Jim.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me. Can you hear me now?
Oh, I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Okay. What's up, Big Jim?
Oh, just continuing to drink through my evening.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. So this is not a new thing? Drinking?
Oh, no. We've been at it since about 5 o'clock.
I just popped the top on my first. Got an other half Imperial IPA, 9%er. It's a one and done beer, is what that is.
I was working on getting the snowmobiles going for the next season here.
Oh yeah, is this supposed to snow ever again?
Maybe not.
No.
It's supposed to go to from 37 degrees to 7 degrees on Sunday up here. So.
Oh wow, that'll freeze some things up. It looks like they're calling for a snowstorm middle of next week. It looks like here anyway. They're calling for like 5 inches.
Yeah, I'm sure that means they'll get 10 up here.
Yeah,
So.
that would be good for you. Big Willie, are you on?
I'm trying. I don't know. Can you hear me, Willie?
Yep, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yep. I'm trying to get the video going here.
Nothing like having a couple of Willies going at once.
Yeah, two Willies and a Jim Bob, or whatever you want to call yourself. All right, I see we got some people jumping on here. We're trying something new tonight. Bullhorn has a new feature where you can share your live broadcast to Facebook and to YouTube. So I've got it going on both Facebook and YouTube. So it looks like it's working. So I guess if
We got more than our 4 normal listeners.
yeah, very exciting. So I think it's streaming. I don't know if start test. Live video says it's starting on Facebook. You know how to post a video to Facebook?
I don't.
No. So it's on Facebook and YouTube apparently. So I'm gonna say we're just gonna let those rip and maybe check Facebook. Go ahead.
Billy, it says, please wait until the podcaster lets you in. Have you let me in?
You're in. I mean, we're talking, so it's
yeah.
Well, I'm on the phone. I got the phone in my hand and the computer sitting here waiting to get in.
You got the phone in your hand. Well, let me.
So do you want to be in twice, or what's the deal with that?
Well, I wanted to be on the computer, so.
What?
But it says, please wait until the podcaster lets you in.
I'm a podcaster, and I haven't let you in. Whatever. We got you on the phone, so
yeah,
I guess that's good enough. So tonight we're gonna just have a little fun chat here. We've got myself, Billy, we got Big Jim, and our father, Big Bill Harvey, on the air, and we're gonna break down this last what has it been 5 days of the holiday hunt, 4 or 5 days of the holiday hunt here in New York. First edition of that, and we have quickly become very big fans of this hunt here between Christmas and New Year's. What an awesome opportunity is presented. So I wanted to take the opportunity to get the 3 of us on here to talk a little bit about that. I think Dallas is going to jump on. I want to hear about his escapades today and see if he's got anything that grinds his gears that we can get him all fired up. That was some good feedback from last week's show with Dallas getting all fired up. So that was fun. I think we might make that a consistent segment here on the show. So for anyone listening, we do have some people on here on Bullhorn. If you want to, if you decide, oh, look at that. We got Dad. He's asking to be in. Oh, there he is.
I'm there.
Okay. All right. Oh, my God.
Hang up the phone. Jesus, you're ruining the whole broadcast.
The whole podcast is ruined.
Hey, you invited me.
I did invite
true.
you. So for anybody, go ahead, Jim. No, it's your show. Go ahead.
No, well, Jesus, nobody else has gotten to talk yet.
That's a good point.
I was just going to say, at least now we got 2 shiny heads on the podcast.
Yeah.
I told your mother I should have worn a hat.
Nice. Be nice.
Yeah, you need your oil-free wipes.
Here's a life without hair, Willie.
Yep. Cheers to that. No need to wash your hair in the morning or nothing. It's the greatest thing ever.
Conditioner.
No. Condition what? So I'll leave. I just want to put this out there as we get the conversation started. Anybody who's listening live that wants to call into the show through the Bullhorn app, if you're listening on Facebook or YouTube right now and have not used the Bullhorn app, you can actually call in and interact with us on the show. You can ask questions, interject any thoughts you have on the topics we're covering, and anybody who calls in tonight, I will give you a gift card to the store of your choice of $50 value. So that's a heck of a deal. We did that a few weeks ago, and Mr. Daniel benefited from that and bought himself something nice from Cabela's. So we'll throw that out there. But
Can I get it for just being on the podcast?
go ahead. Which one of you wants to speak first? Jim, you go. Go ahead, Jim.
Oh, we're going to raise our hands now.
Yeah.
I said, can you get it for being on the podcast?
I knew you were going to ask that question, and the answer is no.
God damn it.
If you want, I'll
I need more
Venmo.
bullets.
I'll just you bet you do. I'll just Venmo you $50. How about that? Just for being a great co-host.
Yeah, expense it.
Yep, expense it. But then it actually costs me money because then I have to file tax stuff, and then I'm like, I've actually lost money this year just because of filing taxes, and I missed 2 of the New York State quarterly tax sales deals, and I got fined $50 both times, so I paid $100 to now Governor Hochul and her administration for me failing to get my taxes done on time. So this running a small business thing is really working out good for me here.
Net loss.
Net loss organization. So let's Uncle Dallas is there. Uncle Dallas, I'm gonna promote you.
Okay.
So we got Uncle Dallas on here. So let's start out chatting with Big Jim. We'll start with you and kind of talk about what this holiday hunt's been for you. You know, you got right after it Sunday, correct? So I'll give you the floor. Let us hear it. How's your holiday hunt been?
I don't know. It was all right.
It was okay.
Yeah. Boo. Oh, yeah. No, I was listening to the podcast last night on the way up north here. After our last day of hunting, I listened to our podcast from last week, and there was a lot of little tidbits here and there that, just from the 3 of us talking back and forth. One of the things that I'm probably the happiest about this last week was I seem to have pulled my head out of my ass with my shooting. And when I was listening to that the other night on the way up here, one of the things Dallas said was be the bullet. And I was just like, hell yeah. I became the bullet because I didn't freaking miss in the late season. So
good job, Jim. Proud of you.
Yeah, felt good. And then the other thing that I said after Dallas said that was, along the lines of accuracy, I wanted to, moving forward, that was my biggest goal, was to work on my accuracy and my shots, and pretty much everything fell into place there for me. So definitely happy about that. And a lot of it is not rushing shots, not forcing shots, because every shot that I took was on my time and not, I got to make this or the deer's gone. So I went out Sunday morning right off the bat and had a doe come in early, probably 20 minutes after I was set. and I couldn't really tell the size of it. It was by itself, and I wasn't liking that. So I was kind of hesitating. I had her at like 60 yards in the crosshair, and I was like, I don't know. And then I saw another deer coming in from a ways out, and I pulled the scope over to that deer, and I saw it had they weren't pedicles, but it was a buck. I think he had snapped both of them off above the pedicles during the rut. So he came in and bumped that doe off. So that made that decision for me. And I was sitting there about 10 o'clock. I was like, I want to sit till 10:30 or so. And I saw a deer coming from the same direction that buck came from. And I think what it was, I think that original doe, she had like a white line down her nose. It was very definable. And I saw that, and she was coming back, and she came back by at like 35 yards. And I kept on putting her in the scope, and I was like, man, I don't know. And then I got it like 35, 40 yards, and I'm like, man, that looks like a nice doe. It's weird that she's walking around alone, but I was like, I got to take this. So I took it, and that was a perfect shot. She ran 50 and tipped over. Gave that one to a buddy. I normally try to get him one a year, so he took that one. And then we had the big Letchworth Excursion on Monday. That was an awesome time with a lot of guys I've never hunted with. And it's kind of funny because all of us guys on the one side never saw the guys on the other side. But it was fun having the rhinos, and everybody was down in there, and you could see where each other were. And I met up with you at 12:30, and you were like, why don't you just turn her around, head her back north, meet up with Chris? I'm like, oh my God. I was like, it literally took me 5 hours and 5 miles to get here. And, it's tough when you're looking at a map to look at a spot and be like, yep, I'm just going to walk this line to it, because everything I went to cliffed out. And then coming back around multiple draws, trying to go down other draws, and ended up back in the same spot multiple times. And what's funny is if I would have just sat in that spot and just waited, you guys kicked like 12, 14 does through there. But I was still hell bent that I was going to find my way to the point on the map. And I showed Billy on Onyx. At one point, I was on a finger that was literally within, a half an inch on the map from touching where you guys wanted me. So it was just a matter of not really knowing the lay of the land and not being able to get to where you wanted to be. But the spot that you guys had me in would have been perfect. And just every time I saw a deer, I was running around trying to find a way to get to my spot, and I never had a good setup to shoot. So saw a ton of deer that day. I think I saw 12 to 14 probably. So that was a really fun day. I did, I think, 9 or 9.5 miles that day. And then Tuesday, I woke up, and it was one of those mornings where it like didn't feel like a great deer hunting morning. It was kind of like just it didn't feel, late season, you're looking for cold snow, and it was like a little bit warmer. It was like 35. It was just kind of wet out, overcast. And after walking 9.5 miles on Monday, I was like, do I even want to go hunting today? And I'm like, this is literally your second to last day. I'm like, just go. So I sat in a stand at the other end of that block of woods. I shot the doe on Sunday, and I had a couple does in there on camera when we were hunting on Monday, and I was like, I bet you if I go back in there, I'll get into them. So I went in there, and first thing in the morning, I had a little one that was down the bottom, and it ran it ran south. And I'm like, I think my wind's doing something goofy in here, but I'm here now. I'm going to set it out. And then a couple minutes later, a doe came across the ravine, and she came right up the hill, and it was kind of the same thing as Sunday. I was looking at her, and I'm like, God, is that a good doe? I can't really tell. And by the time I decided it was, she never gave me the perfect shot, and I wasn't going to force something. So I let her go. Then the little one ran up the hill behind her. And I mean, this thing was absolutely tiny. Like, it must have been a super late offspring. So I was messing around videotaping it off the end of my gun barrel, off the end of my platform. And I hear this branch snap across the valley from me. I look over to where that doe came across, and there was a buck dropping down in there. And I stood up and folded the seat up, and I mean, it's a steep drop. I'm on a steep drop off. I mean, my stand's probably 20 feet in the air and the drop off's probably 30 feet. And I am right on that drop off. And he was coming in exactly the same route the doe did. And I pulled my gun up and I got it on him. I took one look at his horns and I'm like, I got to shoot that deer. And I told them guys I hunt that property with, I'm not shooting another buck unless it's a big one. And I took one look at him and I'm like, I got to shoot that deer. So he came in and he actually stood behind a broke off tree and threw his nose up in the air, and I thought I was screwed. And he actually just carried on, and he turned broadside at, I don't know, 60 yards, but it was a pretty steep downhill. And as soon as he turned broadside, he stopped behind a tree, and as soon as he stepped out, I had the crosshairs right on his shoulder, and I shot. And by the time the smoke cleared, he was laying on the ground. So that was unfreaking believable. And I didn't really know what he was. I just knew that it was a good buck. And I got reloaded, and I had the gun up, and I was watching him, and he was kicking a little bit. And I had no idea where I hit him, but I couldn't see any hole on the side of the body. So I was afraid I hit him too high, and I didn't want nothing to happen. So I put one right behind the shoulder, and then he was just 10 seconds later, he was done. So that was freaking incredible. Dad came over and helped me get him out. And at first I was going to just do it myself, but having Dad in there with me, I mean, that deer was freaking heavy. I don't know if I'd got that deer on the four-wheeler myself. Because I went down there, half an hour later and picked his head up off the ground, and I'm like, holy shit. I did not realize this deer was this big. Like, it's a nice buck. So got super fortunate there, and me and Dad got him out, got him hung up, and I was pulling out of our buddy's driveway looking at the one bottom that we push out, and it dawned on me as I was pulling out of there that that's the buck 2 weeks ago that I missed. We talked about it on the podcast last week. I was zoomed in messing around watching deer that somebody else was shooting at. And when I lowered the gun, that thing was running right at me. And it happened so quick that I never really registered it as to like what he was. But looking at that deer and thinking about that other deer that I missed, it's for sure the same deer. So it was pretty cool to get another opportunity. Honestly, I'd rather harvest them that way rather than pushing them. So it was cool that happened. And then Wednesday was our big group hunt there. Me and Billy and Dad and a couple of our buddies, we went out there to that same farm, and we got into it good. I mean, normally we just push through these woods. And I went to one end, the end that I'd been hunting, and then we had two other pushers, and then we were going to have two sitters. And our plan was to not just push it. Like, everybody's just ease along, still hunt it, let stuff happen. We all had radios, so we could keep in contact. And I posted up at the end of the block of woods, and I was supposed to wait for one of the other guys to come north, get even with me, and then I was supposed to come to him. Then we were supposed to take the whole thing north. So I was standing at the end of the block of woods waiting, and I wasn't there 10 freaking minutes. And it had snowed Tuesday night into Wednesday. So it was just that beautiful, everything was coated with snow. Standing there waiting for my cue, and I looked north, and there's a deer walking through the woods. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, can't really tell what it is. I don't want it to keep going east because that's going out of our drive. And it looked like it had spooked, and I never saw it after that. And then as I'm like watching that area, I had another deer from my west start coming towards me, and it was kind of heading towards the middle of the woods too. And then it went behind a treetop, and I couldn't see it. And I'm like, where'd this deer go? And I'm like looking north and east, thinking it maybe skirted away from me behind some trees. And then I caught out of the corner of my eye to my southwest. The thing was came around a treetop and walked straight at me. And I was leaning up against a tree with my gun ready. And, I made sure it was a nice big doe. And she looked right at me, but she just kept coming. And she turned broadside at 35 yards. And same thing with that. I just let her have it. It was perfect right behind the shoulder. She ran 50 and tipped over. So I was not really planning on shooting another deer, but we had all talked in the morning. They want to take does off this farm. And, it was me and Dad and the two other guys talking. And I was like, does anybody want another doe? And we kind of all decided, if we can shoot more does today, we'll just donate them. So that's the only reason I shot another one, was because I knew we were trying to donate some deer. And so that one I actually donated it to the same guy I gave the first one to, because I was like, well, if this guy wants another deer, he ended up testing positive for COVID. So he's home for 2 weeks now by himself. And he was like, that's absolutely perfect. Give me something to do. I can cut up another deer, have more meat. He's like, that's awesome. So I dropped it off at his house on the way home. But I'll let one of you guys talk some more about our hunt on Wednesday. But it was absolute mayhem from the time I shot till I think it was like 11. We got done with that drive, or 10.
No, it was 11. It was after 11 o'clock. By the time I got down out of the tree, you guys might have been together, but that was one of the wildest hunts I've ever had. And it's in a block of woods that's, what is that, 20 acres?
Yeah.
It's not that much ground, but it was freaking nuts. And
I've never seen so many deer in that finger of woods that I was in. I shot, and then after I reloaded, I was standing there, and I look up, and there's another deer standing there where this one just came from, and it started walking at me, and I'm like, what the hell is this one? And I look, and I'm like, that looks like a buck. And I think that's what was going on when I saw that first deer. Is I think there was some rutting activity going on, because as I made my way through the woods, there was running tracks all over the place, and I don't think it all had to do with us, because we hadn't even started yet. So I think they were running all over to begin with. I think there might have been a little rut activity going on still. That's probably why I shot my buck the day before. He was 20 minutes behind a doe, same exact trail. I've hunted that spot all gun season on and off, and I got cameras in that woods, and I've never seen that deer there before. So we know who he was, but we've never seen him in there before, and there's cameras in there. So, he could slip through, but I think all the deer kind of, the farm fields, all the crops are down. The pressure's off. So I think they all really just kind of moved back in and yarded up. And I saw 25 to 30 deer on Wednesday, and it was just running back and forth left and right, trying to keep them in the drive. And it was just a riot.
It was a riot. A riot for one person here, apparently, because you're the only one that shot a deer on that drive, but it was good. And so, yeah, I guess rolling into that, you had an incredible week, Jim, and congrats to you. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for becoming the bullet and doing what I couldn't.
The bullet this week.
Yes, you did. And doing what I couldn't do. I had my opportunities and I missed. And that is what it is. I was thinking about it. It's kind of funny. The last two seasons, my last two muzzleloader shots have been clean misses on does that I feel like if I could take that shot back, I would make that. I don't know. I both of those shots. I don't know what happened, why I missed. No idea. I felt fairly good about both shots, and it is what it is. So back to the drawing board. Now I can think about that for another 257 days. Before I can get back out in the woods. But Big Willie, what's your thoughts? You had a very difficult deer season with not a lot of time to get out in the woods and hunt like you normally do. So this week you knew when it was finally announced that we were going to be able to hunt this week, that this was going to be your best opportunity the whole year to get out and actually spend time in the woods without worrying about, whether kids are going to get to school today or, whatever the day might bring you at work, right? So this was a huge deal for you.
Well, archery season, I didn't hardly get out at all. And I hunted at camp a little bit, and nothing came together for me there. And I literally did not hunt, I don't think, 2 full days during gun for a multitude of reasons, mostly work related. And so I really did. I put all my eggs in that basket of the holiday hunt, and I was really, really looking forward to it. And I was not disappointed. Just a great, really, I only hunted 2 days. I was going to hunt every day of the week. And only hunted 2 days, but I got 2 deer, and I had more fun than I could have imagined. I think it was great. It's almost ironic, as I think back to when I used to take you guys on adventures, and you'd be all excited, and I'd take one of you hunting, and it's like role reversal, right? Where you're like, we're going to take Dad, you know. So now you guys are taking me on some adventures, and and so that's kind of neat how that comes around. The Letchworth deal, it was just like I was blown away at multiple pieces of it. First of all, it was just fun having the groups of guys. And you know, we didn't all hunt together a lot. It's not like our bird hunting, our pheasant hunting, where we're all together for the day, right? But we're kind of together because we had the radios. And, you know, we had a game plan that was drawn up, and everybody had to go to your location or, you know, carry out your task. And staying in touch on the radios was a lot of fun. The country was just there's a piece of me, even though I have the camp and I hunt the camp all the time, it's like I yearn to explore more and get out and see country that I haven't seen. And, you know, not knowing how many more years of hunting like that I have, it's just, it was very exciting for me to be able to get down to Letchworth and hike farther than a guy my age oughta, and, you know, get to harvest a deer and hike back up out of there. And I'll tell you what, I'm daydreaming today about going down there even when season's closed and just going for a walk, you know, and checking that out. I think that, you know, I could get down in there bow hunting, especially when I'm retired and it's a nice day, just take a day and go down there and putz around. And I bet you I could stumble into some real good action down there. It was just beautiful. The technology, the radios, you know, I had the Rhino, which I hardly ever, I've had it, but I've never really used it other than for like GPS hunting in the Adirondacks a little bit, but didn't know how to use it. I have to admit that, you know, I kept like, I'd leave it on the radio screen, and every time I touch it, I'd mute myself, I'd shut it off, you know. And it was funny because right off the bat, the first day, I was like, you like if you're gonna do your duty in the woods, you got to shut that thing off and walk for a while, and then you can have your peace and quiet and privacy. That was
yeah.
It was. I as soon as I split off from everybody, I'm like, all right, everybody's on their tasks, they're gone. I'm like, all right, we're gonna take care of a little business here. And so I get to it, and I'm looking around. There's like nobody here. I don't see anybody. Everything's good. I got my privacy. Next thing you know, Jonesy pops up over a hill, and he's like, "Big Bill, you are?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." You know, he's like, "You okay?" "Yeah." I'm like, "How the hell did you find me?" You know, and then he leaves, and so
well, that's like yeah. I dropped that, you know, so I dropped.
And
no, you go ahead, Dad. And it's not
finishing up, and next thing you know, I look down, and here comes Slick Willie over the hill, and he's like, "I'm just checking on you, Dad. Everything okay?" And then Jonesy's like, "Well, you're not answering your radio," and I'm like, "I don't hear any radio." Well, I had it muted, and so it was just funny though. I got a kick out of it that, you know, note to self, you know, during these private moments, maybe shut the radio off and walk a couple hundred yards. So.
Well, yeah, and it's your first, you know, you haven't been out a lot. You're not exactly the, you know, in marathon shape. So like Jeff and I, like, we split up, and then it's within 10 minutes, not even 10 minutes, like you're non-responsive on the radio. And we're like, Jesus, Dad had the big one. It's like Mom's going to freaking kill us. She texted Jimmy and I in the morning, and she's like, I have the Find Your Friends app, and if God forbid your father gets lost. I'm like, let's let this happen, you know? So it was pretty hilarious to have that happen in the beginning, but you did really, really good. I was nervous about how you would do, you know, you walked, you know, 2.5 miles to get to your sitting spot and up and down some ravines, and it's not easy. So I was a little nervous for you. I know you were kind of a little anxious too, but you did fantastic.
Yeah, I had asked you, I'm like, you think I can handle this, or can I cut this? And you're like, you won't have any worse terrain than Naples. And, you know, I can go 4 or 5 miles a day up there, you know, if and when I have to, and right up and down those hills. So, but it was a lot of fun. And, you know, between, you know, the online apps that we have on our phone and the GPS that we have with the rhinos, you know, I mean, you draw an X on the map and text it out to everybody, and I saved it onto my phone, and then I went to my hunting app and I put it on there, and I've got it pinpointed on, and I walk right there. You know, it was awesome. It was very enjoyable, and
I'm glad it was that easy for you to just walk right to the dot on your map.
Yeah, I'm good at it.
All right, Jim. I joked because I said I was going to put Jimmy in. I was going to garhole him and put him in a bad spot so he couldn't get one up on me for the, you know, the Great American Harvey Whitetail Contest.
I was wondering if you did that. on purpose. When I left there, I was driving home in the next parking area north where he had to go, he and Chris.
Yeah.
That was a long freaking
That's like
way.
4 miles,
I
you know?
know.
It's like he sent him all the way back to Mount Morris, you know?
Yeah, well, Dallas told me that where I put those 3 guys was probably not ideal. In hindsight, we know it was not ideal. They were basically hunting over cliffs, and I felt more. I didn't give a really honestly, Jimmy. I didn't care about you, but I felt awful the fact that I
took my fucking gun for a walk.
Chris, my customer of mine that I've gotten to be good friends with. You know, he's been wanting to come hunting with us, and he hasn't had. He's in the same general role as you, Dad, so he's had 0 opportunity to hunt this year, and so like this was a big ordeal for him to get a day to go out hunting, and I freaking put him in a spot where he spent basically the whole day looking at a cliff into a river, and it was a beautiful setting, and I tried to lighten the mood a little bit, but I'm like, Jesus, this guy was dependent on me for putting deer in front of him, and yeah, I didn't do that.
There's always next year.
There is.
Yeah. You put together the team for that side, for that east side, and having done it once with that many guys, you'll do it a little differently next year, and we'll be more productive. I mean, it was you could have taken more guys down into the river flat with you. Probably could have put 1 or 2 more down there, and I think it would have been good to drop some. Like I went to location 5, and I think location 4 sat vacant, and that would have been a good spot too.
I think like the spot you had me in would have been absolutely perfect had I could have gotten there. And then seeing what happened with all them deer that ran up the hill that I did see, you could leave a guy up top there if you wanted, like one last guy.
Yeah.
On the north side. That would have been a great spot. It was a bunch of little pine ridges that benched out. It was a gorgeous spot. It was funny during that, I think I got when you came up out of the riverbank, I was standing there with Jonesy, and I was like, "What? Real funny, Bill. Thanks for just sending me for a walk." Like, I don't know. I was just looking at a map. I'm like, yeah, I couldn't fucking figure it out by the map either.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't see some of those little micro features on the topo map, but I was spanked when I came out of that bottom. I had walked. I showed you my track on there. I was walking in circles and zigzags, and then I'd see deer running, so I'd start running. And that whole bottom has been flooded multiple times, over the summer and throughout the fall. So like everything was covered in mud. I don't know if I've ever seen it that way, but all 3 of us that were in the bottom on our side, we were all just like filthy. Like my gun was just covered in dirt and mud. And at that point it switched from snow to like a misty rain. I was spanked, and I'm like, shit. I'm like, I got to get all the way across here. And we were way further away from than what I remembered, but we got your deer cut up, Dad, and it was like 2:30, and we started our hike back, and I'm like, shit, I really need to be on the road by 4 o'clock. I'm like, we don't have a lot of time. We got to cover some ground here. But what was that like for you, shooting that deer down in there, and that whole process of, I don't think you really ever, you quartered up the bear you shot, but I don't think you've done that much before, right?
Yeah, I didn't really quarter up. I actually boned out the bear and just carried the meat out, just having done as many bears as I had done. The bear is, there's not a lot of pounds of meat on a bear, percentage wise. So I just know there's no sense carrying bones. But that was the first time ever to quarter out a deer, and that was really cool. And I know that, like, the way I hunt is like when you shoot one and it's down, like you go check on it, gut it, dress it, field dress it, get it all set to go, right? And you're like, oh, stay on watch. There might be more coming, And so then it started snowing, and then the snow got a little heavier, and I'm like, that could cover up sign or track. I heard the deer go down. I heard the crash. I knew. I said that. I got it. I heard it crash down, but I didn't know where. It ran up towards the draws there somewhere. And so I thought, when it started snowing, I'm like, well, I'm just going to mosey over to where I shot, see if I can pick up some sign. I didn't find any sign. And then I think you were on the radio, Billy. You're like, you got deer coming up. So I got over to a tree, and I was standing there kind of watching down below me. And then I watched behind me too. And I looked around up behind me to check on things, and the deer laid there behind me about 30 yards up the up the hill. And I remember telling you I knew we were going to have to carry it out. So I saw those deer running across through the woods there. And I'm like, well, I picked up one that I thought was the smallest one. I figured, well, I'll shoot a little one and be easier to carry out. And yeah, probably shot one of the biggest does I've ever shot in my life. I think that doe was huge.
Yeah, she was
gorgeous. It was a big deer.
Yeah, big long face on her. I mean, her
shoulders
were big.
And it was a great shot. I mean, I double lunged it. It was beautiful.
Yep.
Great. It was awesome. Absolutely. I mean, it just made my day right there. Could have ended the season on that note, but had one more adventure in us. I came home and I told your mother, I was like, oh my God, that was an adventure. And it was fun though, because to do like this holiday hunt, and it's supposed to be an opportunity for families to get together, or kids that are home from college or whatever. Even like all of us, we were able to take some time, and the three of us, that was the only time really all three of us hunted together all year.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it was awesome. I just I'm in love with the holiday hunt, with that late season. I was surprised. I showed you, Billy, scrape. There was an active scrape that was probably, dressed up within 12 hours of that one I showed you down in Letchworth. Do you remember that when we were hiking out?
Yeah.
And then yesterday, all through the woods, up where we had all the deer activity, there was scrapes that were open, that had been tended to, and there was a group of deer. I saw 11 deer that came down along the edge of this field, and they were like single file spread out trotting along. There was 11 of them, and after they had gone through, like a couple minutes later, this great big deer come down through. You could tell he was a buck, and it was big, and he come following their track, and then that group of 11 split, and then he was checking out the two different paths, the way the deer went, and then he took off after the one that went up over the hill, that the other group. So I'm like, my God, I think I'm seeing like rutting action, and then what you saw, Jimmy, and then we saw some other, indicators that there would, and I know we have like, you might have a little early rut, you have your November rut activity, which is the peak that we all like to chase. And then we always have a late rut in December, but I honestly think, I don't know because any doe that got bred now, you'd be looking at July fawns. It doesn't make sense, but there sure seemed to be some activity going on there. That was pretty cool.
It was. We got a Facebook comment, Dad. It's a nice little compliment for you. It says, "Why did you call the guy on the bottom of the screen your dad? It looks like he's in his mid-30s." Not too bad for a 60-year-old. Mom better watch out. Retired 60-year-old looks like he's in his 30s.
Mom commenting.
Yeah, maybe it's the person has no profile picture. Bo Hunt, and it seems like it's got to be a troll of some sort. So it's probably Mom. I don't know. That seems like
the
cool
other thing about the Letchworth hunt was, carrying that deer up out of there. I mean, oh my God, that would have been a job. I don't know how you do it. Like, when you guys go into PA and, you're going a longer distance than that, but it was really great to have you and Jeff there, and to know Jimmy was far away. And we had, but to have you guys help, in a half hour, we had the deer taken apart and split up amongst the three of us. And, it was kind of nice for me to know that I could do it. It was a long hike back and up out of there. And we ran into an old guy up there by the road after you left, Billy. He came up out of there, and he said he was down checking some SD cards and had a rifle with him. And he said he was just in case he bumped into any coyotes or anything. But he was a nice old timer, and he was talking with us, and he goes, "I've never been down the bottom." And he goes, "I asked a guy one time, he goes, how far down there is it?" And he goes, "Well, it's about 1.5 miles down to about 3 miles back up."
Yeah, it feels like that.
Because that describes it,
Yeah, I mean, you're talking, 700-800 feet elevation change, that's a lot. That is a lot.
The gullies and the draws, some of those fingers that run, it's just like oaks, hemlocks, steep draws with, and it's funny, like Jimmy, you were saying there's areas that you wanted to get out of because you were clipped out, and then deer pop over the edge, It's like, how the hell
things part billy goat down there. I've never seen deer on ridges like that. Good, dropping in gullies. The one finger I was on, I could tell it was starting to run out on me, and I'm standing there kind of thinking to myself, if this happens again, what am I going to do? Because I had just gone like 3/4 of a mile back up around to get to that one. And, I looked down and here comes 6 deer up over the edge of the ridge from me, and they're on the same finger I'm on. So I pull my gun up and scope cap's closed so I can see nothing. So I pop the scope cap, and then the only deer I had in the scope, I think I had 2, 3 in the scope at a time because they were crossing my finger, and I just didn't have a good shot. But then I watched them. I was in like a bowl, so that I could see like three ravines, and they were just running through them like they were nothing. And I was like, where did these deer come from? So I went down to the end of the finger to figure it out, and and you could see on the other side where they came from, they literally just like it looks like they just belly slid down the whole entire ravine, hit the bottom, and then straight back up the other side. Like that wasn't even wide enough of a ravine for them to. You'd think they'd just snap in half when they hit the bottom, but somehow they're running through the goddamn thing. I have no idea.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, that was awesome experience, and it was such a total different type of deer hunting than anything I'd really done before. Billy, and I've heard you speak of your Pennsylvania hunts where Dallas will put together these plans and you guys all go down there as a group. It's kind of a an organized still hunt with some guys posted up, and it's a lot of fun. I can see why you love it the way you do. This was like a mini PA trip for us. It was pretty cool. I mean, I look forward to doing it again next year.
Yep.
I thought to self, after this week, doing some group hunts that we did, it's like we should try to do this once a weekend or, a couple times during the season instead of waiting until the end of the year to do it, because we could easily pull that off several times throughout the season. It'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a change. It's just a change in approach, I look back at my gun season, and it's just, I mean, the most fun I had was hunting with groups of people. I really did not enjoy sitting much this year. We didn't really have great cold weather to really put deer on their feet to get out and start feeding. It was just a kind of a tough gun season. So the best hunts were getting out and Jim, are we keeping you? Do you want us to let you go?
No,
he looks like he's fading fast here.
Yeah, he's starting to get those squinty eyes. That's when Big Jim's fading hard.
Feeding.
Day drinking will get you like that, Jim. But yeah,
feeling good. I had a bunch of loin tonight. It was great.
Oh, nice
loins.
So, well, one of the interesting things about the season, a lot of times, reflecting back on it, like my deer season, as you enter into the season, it's full of excitement and anticipation and not knowing how things are going to unfold. And then the same with the opener of gun, you get into it, and then you're in the hot and heavy of the season. And it seems like it kind of ends flat for me usually. It's like everybody peters out. There might be a couple of us go out for a hunt. You might get something, you might not. You don't see anything. It's just like the luster and the thrill is gone, But the way this week went, it was like so much fun that I felt like I ended the season. We still got a couple of days. I'm going to hunt birds tomorrow, and then Saturday I think just close up camp. But it was really a lot of fun to end the season with as much excitement as we started it with, And that was because we had that group dynamic and all of us together. We had a blast. It was a lot of fun.
Yep. Yeah, and then kind of so closing out your week was you shooting your buck yesterday afternoon, and that couldn't have been any more of a team effort. We basically thought the day was done. I had missed a doe, and I was pissed off. And you guys, like, the radios we were not communicating very well yesterday. I don't know what it was, but like we were not that far apart. And you guys are like, Billy, did you shoot one? I'm like, no, miss. They're like, did you hit it? No, it was a miss. I was getting really pissed off. Yeah, right. We need air support. And
we heard you.
Oh, you heard me. You were just torquing my gear. That really grinds my gears, Dallas. Some people ask you to repeat whether you missed one or not. So
Brian good the other day too, Billy.
Brian did get me good. When I came over the radio, and why I came over the radio and said that to everybody was just stupid. But I'm like, oh my God, guys, I can shoot a doe. I got my either sex regular season tagger. I think that or my either sex muzzleloader. And Brian's
shot 2
I could have shot 2 does. And what did Brian say? Because it was just classic Brian. Like it didn't. Like I literally let my finger off the key of the mic, and Brian was like right on it.
Brian, typical Brian. He said something like something about you being a shitty muzzleloader hunter. Or a shitty hunter leads you to having 2 buck tags at muzzleloader.
Yes.
So I'm laughing. I'm literally laughing out loud down there on the river. And I was going to chime in. I had a good comeback, too. I was going to say maybe you should look for a new hobby. But
it's podcasting.
It's podcasting.
There's already
I'm
a lot
shitty
of
at this, too.
I think I'm going to just keep quiet. So.
Yeah, the cut was made. I was sitting there and I'm like, you jackass, I was like, I had that doe standing broadside on the side hill that I could have shot at, hopefully would have hit her. But just whatever. It was classic Brian.
That was funny. That was a thought maybe better kept to yourself.
Yep. That's true.
Man, I tell you what, Wednesday I almost covered as much ground as I did on Monday, but I never left a 100-acre block. We were freaking chasing deer back and forth, trying to keep them in the drive. I was freaking running like crazy. I did 7.5 miles on.
Did you really?
On Wednesday.
That's pretty impressive on farm ground.
I almost ran down a buck and jumped on his back. That was pretty sweet.
That's what. Yeah, Mike's like, I'm gonna sneak up to him and knife him. I was laughing.
I was talking about a different one.
Oh, the different one. But yeah. So anyway, where we were going with that was Dad's buck he shot yesterday afternoon. I don't remember a year when you hadn't shot a buck, Dad. So, and you're not a trophy hunter. You love venison, you love meat, and you love shooting bucks. And so you would ask Mike yesterday morning if he cared, what you shot, and he absolutely did not care.
I asked permission, find out what the boundaries are. I don't want to go anywhere I shouldn't, or.
Yeah. And so it's like, so I missed this doe. We already covered all that. And I'm like sulking, walking across the edge of this field, and all of a sudden I hear you shoot, and it's like, what the hell? It's like I'm first thing that comes to my head is like, Dad's just emptying his gun. Season's over. Yep. That's what he's doing, And then it ends up being you had a buck like come out to feed at like 3:00. He comes out of these treetops, and he's gonna go out and feed in the alfalfa field.
We should rewind this a little bit. So we had left our original drive, went and did couple other drives. We weren't finding any sign or any deer, so we were like, let's go back. I'm like, I think you said, Billy,
same block of woods.
I think our best bet's going back to that block of woods. There's a ton of deer in there. And so what we decided was to leave Billy and Dad on the south end. Normally we go south to north, and it kind of pinches them in there. And we decided to turn it around and take it north to south to switch it up since we already did it. So me and my buddy there, we came in from the north side, and I came up behind my tree stand. I shot my archery buck out of, which is right on the edge of bedding. And as soon as I crested the hill, just deer busted out running everywhere. And I told Dad, I was like, deer coming at you. And Dad was like, oh, they seem to stay down in there. And then I was like, we were talking back and forth on the radio, and then Dad wasn't answering. All of a sudden, pow. And I'm like, well, figured it out. And Dad missed a buck, and he was like, he's coming back towards you, Jim. So I'm standing there. I'm looking down a row of planted trees along the edge of the bedding area. And Dad's like, he's moving slow. He's just, sneaking back down into there. And I'm watching him. And he's just like walking around. He just walked back down into the bedding area in front of me. So we kind of had both sides of the bedding area covered. I zigzagged back and forth through it. I got right to the end of it. And I heard the deer run out like 20 yards away. I could hear him bound out of there. And Dad was like, he headed out towards the field and then into the ravine. And I was like, well, if I run back out to the field and go down the ravine and come back up, I may, if he's hanging in there, I'll push him back up to you. So I take off and run all the way back out to the field, run all the way down the field, run back in the ravine, and I see the buck going up the next ravine over, heading south. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go see if I can keep him in. So I freaking crossed the ravine, got in the field, and ran all the way south. came back in the next ridge, and I'm like sneaking along. It was logged last year, so there's tops all over the place. So I'm like sneaking along, looking over the bank, trying to see if he's held up in there. And I get to the point where these 3 draws come together. And that was when you shot, Billy. And we decided you missed. You didn't need the 4-wheeler, but the 4-wheeler was all the way back at the other end of the woods, and I needed to get it. So I was like, I'm going to head back and get the 4-wheeler. So I dropped down the point, and as soon as I hit the bottom, Dad shoots again. And I'm like, did I kick that buck back to him or what? And then Dad was like, he just ran out to the edge of the field, and he's just standing there. And I'm like, which field? Because I was between 2 fields. And Dad was like, the south field. So I turn and I run back up the next ridge, and I get out to the corner of the field, and I'm peeking down the field, and I don't see him. And Mike's at the other corner, and he was like, I can see him. He's standing in the field feeding. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, so, and Mike was like, I can't shoot because the construction in the background. So I was like, all right, I'm going to take off across the field because there's a ridge. Maybe I can get on the south side of him and push him back in. And I walked up within 100 yards of that deer before he saw me, and I was right out in the middle of a winter wheat field. He had no idea.
He was intently feeding.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we ended up bumping him back into the woods, and he went in absolutely perfect. And
well, he came in and stopped and stood there, and then he started to go a little bit east. And then I'm like, I think Mike told you to keep coming. He's like, just keep walking straight in, Jimmy. You'll bump him right back into your dad. Because I'm like 100 yards back in the woods. And then the deer finally said, I'm out of here, and came running towards me. And
I was only 30 yards from him at that point, and he finally turned and trotted back in towards you.
Yeah. It was the line of the day was hilarious when I shot. And right after I shot it, here you go, if you missed him, I'm going to come over there and slap you or something like that.
I said, if you missed that deer, I'm going to slap you.
No, that was fun. It was a lot. And Mike got a kick out of it too, because he said, he could see me up in the tree stand and seen the smoke burst out and then the flame and then the bang, and
yeah, it's pretty cool.
But yeah, it was a great day, and it was, today I was like, that's it, I'm done for the year. I just need some meat for the freezer, and I got it, and I'm good to go. But yeah, it was 2 fantastic days, and it was, again, the best part for me was not getting the 2 deer. The 2 deer was a bonus. It was just spending the time with you guys and with the other guys we hunted with. They were all super nice guys. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a great week, and if you guys took me on hunts like that every day, I think it would kill me. I think it was a lot of fun.
It would kill me too.
Yeah, I'd be all right.
You ought to see Big Jim go, though. I've seen him out in this one field, and he was like running across the top and then dropping down and
chasing them all
these
back.
Deer. There was a whole bunch of deer that came into this this ravine. It was all willows and brush. And I'd have seen them if they come out. I'm like, they're in there. They got to be in there. There's like 8 or 10 of them, So Jimmy came back up the field and then came down a little bit, just enough to let his wind drift in there. And that worked. And just stopped and stood there. It worked so good because the deer just got antsy, and then they started coming out, just single file, working through the bottom. And I just never could get a good shot. And then I thought they were going to come up my side, and I'd take them then. And then they just last minute they turned and headed straight in the other direction. They went south. But then a buck cut across. I see a buck cut across, and it's headed out towards the field. So Jimmy's running over there I'm watching Jimmy run across that field. And hey, man,
kick and move. Had my running rubbers on.
Yeah, you can move.
Fat kid's got
covered
wheels.
some ground there in a hurry.
Well, what was funny was, as you said, I was standing there trying to wind bump them does, and I didn't want them going north, so I went up and around you. And when you said they're heading south, I didn't want them to bust back out into the field south of me and get out, so I started running down the edge. Well, no idea the deer was in there, but all of a sudden I hear the cracking in the brush next to me, and I can see the deer running. It was like 15 yards away, and he busts out of the brush, and it was a freaking beautiful buck. And I started like yelling at him, trying to get him to go down in the woods. And he freaking ran that tree line all the way to the end and then dumped back out and, to the block of woods I shot the doe in the morning. I'm like, oh my God. I had no idea that deer let me walk right by him because I walked by that spot to get to where I wind bumped those does. I just happened to be running back through there. And when I was running through there, he must have freaking finally busted out. But he probably would have stayed right there and let me walk by several times.
Yep. Fun fact, and then we're going to close out this story and go on Uncle Dallas. But fun fact, that exact spot you jumped that buck, I jumped a buck on Thanksgiving Day, a decent one too. So kind of interesting that that's definitely a betting spot for a buck or for deer, period. But, you know, 2 decent bucks. It could have been the same deer. Who knows? But betted right in that spot. So, well, great recap. Classic story time with Big Jim and Big Willie. That's right, Uncle Dallas, right? You know, you put your time in here, almost an hour of listening to these two just yammer about how great they are at deer hunting. So,
no, you guys are having a great conversation. I mean, it's, you know, the last part of it was doing deer drives on farms, and you know, most of us have experienced that. But you know, I really enjoyed listening to Jim and Big Willie talking about hunting Letchworth for the first time and kind of getting into the adventure stuff and how fun it could be, you know, because I remember when we first took Billy on his first big adventure, and it was in the same place. I mean, it was literally hunting, you know, he probably sat not too far from where you killed your deer, Bill.
Yeah.
And, man, Slick Willie just had such a blast that day. Like, you could tell you know, your eyes were open to a whole new world of things that you didn't even know possible. And, you know, one of the first things that Billy said back then was, God, I got to get my brother and my dad down here and doing this kind of stuff because they would just really love this shit, you know. And it took them a while to get you guys down there, but you definitely got to see what it's all about. I mean, that's what we do all the time, you know. I mean,
I don't think he ever invited me until this last
bullshit, Jim. I've been asking you for years. That was 5 years. I think that was 5 years ago, Dallas. It was 5 years ago I went with you guys for the first time, and
I think it was more than that.
Maybe it would. No, it was seven years. 7 years
really?
ago. That's what it was. It was 7 years ago because I had a Facebook memory. That's the only way I ever know how long ago things were was Facebook memory. So yeah, 7 years ago was the first time I went on that. Went anywhere with you guys, and it opened my eyes. Like, it's like I respect people, and I get like everybody's whatever your hunt is your hunt. But you know, I think if all you do is hunt your back 40, and that's all you're ever gonna do, like I don't know if that would excite me enough to want to do it like for 4 months straight. You know, like I look at my hunting season. My hunting season it started in Colorado and it ended, you know, on flat farm ground chasing deer around a 20-acre block of woods. You know, it's like the variety of the hunting is just it keeps you engaged, and it keeps you never know when something's going to happen, but you're doing it with good friends, doing it with good, you know, in good places, and you just never know what's around the next tree. So it is really cool from your perspective to see that too, because you know how badly I've been wanting to get Jimmy and Dad to experience that sort of hunting with me and with you guys. So it was pretty cool to do that, and especially to have a successful hunt come together.
And let me say, it wouldn't have happened without the holiday hunt.
Yeah.
Because I honestly figured I was going to miss Letchworth again this year because I can't get you guys usually do it like on a Monday or Friday, and I can't get away. But, yeah, I'll be you'll be sick of me by the end of next season.
Yeah, I will.
That's what happened with me too. Is normally you guys are going on a Monday or Tuesday, and I burned all my time up. But this year I was able to take normally I take Christmas, New Year's off, and this year with the hunt, you know, it worked out perfect to be able to go with you guys.
Great fun, awesome.
Yep.
Seeing new country too. That's like.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think you summed up the holiday hunt perfectly, Bill. It's a perfect opportunity to get out and hunt with your family when you normally wouldn't be able to. You know, I mean that's a big reason why they did it. You know, I mean, even a couple weeks ago, Billy was even on the fence a little bit about what he thought about this hunt, but you can damn sure believe he knows what side he's on now. I mean,
no, I think it's been fascinating this week to see, and granted, we weren't, again, like we already discussed this. We didn't want to hunt our farm here, your family's farm, because we just weren't seeing anything that really was tripping our trigger. We knew what we had. We know what our inventory is. We didn't want to hit it. But look at what we got into in the 2 hunts that we did, on Monday and Wednesday. It's just the deer were grouped up. There was, had to have seen 15 or 20 deer on Monday and saw, 30 deer. I didn't see them, but I know that woods was holding them. So, I think reflecting on this week is that I kind of wish, and this is something I've wished for a while, but for New York to not have such a long gun season, give the deer a break, and have some of these later seasons where you can get out there, the deer have had a chance to kind of gather themselves, regroup, and then you get some colder weather, and you can be more selective about what you're going to do and what you're going to shoot. I think that's where I stand on the whole thing is like, I love that we have all the opportunity that we do here in New York, that we can hunt basically for 3 months straight. But man, what would it do if you gave the deer, a week or two's break in December before muzzleloader season? Like, muzzleloader season could be totally different that last week if you didn't have that 2 weeks after Thanksgiving of just continued hunting pressure,
I hunted late muzzleloader, and then I hunted the holiday hunt, both in the same block of woods, same tree stand, and that week's difference. Muzzleloader there, everything starts to settle down. That's why I like hunting in there so much in the late muzzleloader. But that week of not even being in the woods or having the opportunity to be in the woods, man, what a flip of the switch for the holiday hunt. It was unbelievable.
And that was with shitty weather.
Right.
Yeah.
Really weather. If we could have had good weather, it could have been really something.
Yeah, you're right. So let's dive into your experience. So you hunted Monday with us, and then today, right? That was your 2 days you hunted. How'd today? We know we already covered enough about Monday. How'd today go?
Oh, it was a complete letdown.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was terrible.
I'm sorry. I'm not sorry, but
it was terrible. I'm not going to say we didn't have fun and we didn't hunt all day, but no, we hunted the scout camp in town there that, has basically been off limits to hunting our whole lives. And we finally got permission to take a group in there and hunt that 500 some acres. And it was, we ran into a couple of small groups of deer. We probably covered 300-400 acres and saw 10 deer, eight or 10 deer. So, it was just, it's getting hunted more than you think, and there's just not a lot of good cover in there. It looks like it could be some pretty good bow hunting, but even then we didn't see a lot of buck sign.
No.
And that place always had a reputation around town as being the place that holds all the deer because nobody's hunting in there. And there's a lot of people that honestly believe that there'd be 500 deer in there. I never thought that, but I thought it would be better, but it just did not pan out at all. So, and again,
maybe it would have been a couple of weeks ago when shotgun season was rolling.
Yeah, I didn't see that much sign in there and that much bedding. I didn't see there wasn't a lot of cover in there to really say that it would hold that many deer.
Yeah.
So it's funny, Dallas. You kind of dispel a myth, right? Everybody, when you can't go in someplace, everybody's just assuming that's where all the deer are.
Right. And they'll swear
like they got to be in there, right?
Yeah. Oh, you'll hear all the time around Bennington, all the deer are in scout camp. No, they're not. I'm telling you, I'm here to tell you right now. I went and looked today, and
I went and looked. They're not there.
They're not there.
Yep.
So, it was a little bit of I had fun on Monday in Letchworth, as I always do. But yeah, really, since opening day of regular season, I've not had much action. Not really complaining, but it's just I don't have a lot to report, So, and I kind of mentioned that last week too. I was saying that I hunted a decent amount out. I hunted hard Pennsylvania, but New York, I hunted enough to know what was going on. But I was mostly running cameras all season, and after I killed my buck with the bow, I've been running cameras religiously and just trying to pick up on something new, and just didn't materialize. And I had a feeling because I didn't have anything else that really tripped my trigger. I was waiting for something to show up, but it never did. So, good news is I think I got some really good prospects for next year. That's what my whole season kind of turned into. But late season, I was hoping to drop a couple more doe. I'd like one for myself, and I have plenty of people who I usually donate deer to that would take more, and it was kind of a letdown that I wasn't able to do that, which with the last couple of years I've donated a lot of deer and made a lot of people happy. So, you can't always count on that, but
yeah,
I figured I would have shot something along the way.
Yeah.
One of the things that impressed me most, especially down in Letchworth, was the deer sign. The particular, I'll call it the little bench that I sat on, was just an awful lot of track in there. Tracks everywhere. Easy.
A lot of deer scat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? I just don't think there's a lot of deer in there. I just don't. I wouldn't encourage anybody to even walk off the road. I don't think it's even worth it.
Well, the problem is it is like, that's not just like a go do it yourself deal. Like
a quick
I
hang and
don't know,
hunt. It's not. It's not that really.
It's a difficult hunt.
Big time difficult.
So, one of my observations there, maybe more than ever, I swear to God, every single ridge has got a ladder stand or two on it.
I know.
That I'm
Or
assuming
ground
that
blinds.
I'm pretty confident those ladder stands do not come down at all. I mean, there's got to be 80, not 80. That's dramatic. There's got to be 20 ladder stands at least in there that are permanently set up. So anybody who wants to go find good spots, just go walk down a ridge and you'll find a ladder stand to hunt. And that's your prerogative because that stand is state-owned property at this point because that shit's been there and doesn't appear to be coming down. But
that finger I went down, Billy, up at the top before I started down in, when you're kind of in that zone between where you drop in and the edge of the ag fields, there was somebody's been over the years or whatever, put some time into building some really nice ground blinds. It was some nice, and I've killed most of my biggest bucks on the ground, on a ground blind. So that kind of appealed to me. I was checking them out a little bit, but that particular ridge I went down, there was 3 different ladder stands. I passed at like different levels down through there. I thought the same thing looking at them. Some of them are older stands. I can tell they've been there a while. And it's like, we're in good spots. I'm like, just walk down here and climb up and sit down.
I know.
Well, it must take 2 guys 6 months to haul a ladder stand in this place. They get no wonder they don't bring them back out. I mean,
I wouldn't. I got some in the Adirondacks that I hiked way the heck back in, and they're still back in there. We're still using them. That was 15 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I found a nice bait site. If anybody wants that, looks like a great spot.
Yeah, that is unbelievable. A bait site with a tree stand and a trail camera over it.
Yeah.
How ignorant is that?
So if you're listening to our podcast, don't be a scumbag.
What's that, Dallas?
I found that same setup in PA this year.
Did you?
Yeah, right in one of our spots, there was a ladder stand with a bait pile and a cell cam.
No shit.
Wow.
Yeah.
This thing was a 5-gallon pail with the timed feeder thing on the bottom of it.
Never ceases to amaze me. Disappointed, not surprised.
Yeah.
Well, the stupidity of doing that on a popular public land hunting spot is just...
Oh, my God. Ridiculous.
Yeah. With the camera, the cameras, that's the worst part to me, is that you got a camera on it, because chances are, well, whatever. It's
It was a cell cam in PA. I called the DNR.
Did you?
They came out and checked it.
Yeah, I took pictures and snapped a point on the map, and I was thinking the same thing.
I think you would contact the park police. They're the ones that do the patrol and stuff there. I think they would be the ones to handle that issue. But cell cam, that's even dumber because it's attached to a person in a plan. They can just basically call the company and say, whose camera is this? How dumb are you?
That's stupidity at its finest right there. It really is.
Just trying to get myself a big woods buck, Jesus.
Well, the thing in Pennsylvania is I saw that and I'm generally kind of the guy that's
To each his own, whatever.
To each his own. Like, you're not bothering me, whatever. But, I saw that and I'm like, I'm going to do something. Like, my options were call the DNR, A, or B, I was going to take the card out of the camera.
Nah, don't do
or
that.
C,
That's a dick move. But take a poop in the middle of the feed pile. That's what I would have done.
or I was just going to, or turn the camera off. Those were my thoughts. But, yeah, I wouldn't take a guy's card out of his camera ever, except for when it's a cell camera over a bait site.
Does it grind your gears?
No, this didn't grind my gears too bad. This was actually like I actually thought about this for about 24 hours down there, and I finally decided, the more I thought about it, they have the bear season was 2 weeks before the muzzleloader bear season was. And so I'm like, you know what? That's a freaking bear bait site down there. And I know how seriously they take their bear hunting down there. So that's when I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to call this in, like I've never done it. I've never reported a violation before, but so I'm sitting out in the woods and we were hunting that area, not, it's probably a mile from there, but in that region. So I submitted the form and 5 minutes later, my phone rings and I'm like, hello? Like, oh, this is so-and-so from the DNR. And I was like, wow, that was fast. He goes, I'm sorry, I'm not out in that area today, but if you could give me some more information. Well, I walked out and I ended up walking down the roadway that was near it. And the DNR actually pulled in at the same time. And they were looking for our license and stuff. And I go, hey, I'm the guy that called in the bear thing. And they're like, oh, can you show where it is? So, but yeah, that guy definitely got caught. I'm sure of it because,
yeah.
I mean, again, stupidity at its finest. I mean, how dumb can you possibly get?
Well, there you go. You can get that dumb.
A pile of corn and salt on the ground with a cell cam over it and a ladder stand 20 yards in front of it.
Unbelievable.
Yep. It's crazy.
So,
and I've had good experiences the last 2 years. I've been hunting a lot of state land, especially during archery and gun here in New York, and I've had some great interactions with our with both rangers and DEC NCON officers. Just talking with them, kind of letting them know what I'm seeing. The one piece of property's had a lot of four-wheeler traffic that, I hate to feel like I'm being a narc, but it's like if it says there's no motorized vehicles, no wheeled vehicles, it's kind of fair play that we all should be on the same playing field here. Like if I got to hike this hill, so do you. And
Right.
So I've had some great interaction, and they've been very vigilant on it. I told them what was going on, and they know exactly who the people are because of where they're coming in from. And they took care of the issue, and we didn't see any more four-wheeler traffic. So, you kind of, like you said, Dallas, like you don't want to be that guy, but if somebody's abusing the property, like I don't think it's not ethical either. If you're baiting, you are definitely violating a law. So shame on you, and I'm gonna call that in. So that is that. But
yeah,
do we want to cover some grind your gears, Dallas? I know you had one that you tagged me in on Facebook. Do you want to dive into that?
Sure, I'll touch on a couple of them briefly that have just come up lately. But yeah, as far as New York rules and regulations, the one that I've seen, two of them that I've seen a lot lately is there's been some people killing does in this holiday hunt. And when they've gutted them out, they've actually found fetuses inside of there. So I can understand I've never found one. Okay. So I don't know how that would make me feel, but I can understand how a guy could get a little freaked out gutting out a deer and finding fetuses. Right. But they're blaming the holiday hunt on deer being pregnant. So they're like, oh, this is crazy. You can't be shooting does this late because these deer are pregnant. I got news for you, friend. 4 weeks ago, when you shot the deer in mid-November with your rifle, that doe was probably pregnant.
Yep.
And you know what?
Then.
4 weeks before that, she probably wasn't pregnant, but you know what? She was going to be pregnant soon. So I'm not sure if people realize that this is how nature works, that
yeah, if they've ever bred their woman or anything like that, it doesn't take long to
deer reproduce every year. They don't wait until deer season's over to breed. So
No.
that one's kind of got me going a little bit because I've seen it several times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually saw that one too. I was going to bring that up here during this podcast. So that's funny, but I shot 2 big mature does, and I didn't see any of that when I was gutting them out. So,
well, that's interesting because,
And I don't know if I buy that. If you look at if these things were bred in the 10th of November, and you shoot them 6 weeks later, I mean, are you going to have a fetus that's developed to the point where, I don't know, and I'm not going to argue that point, but Dallas, I said the exact same thing. I was talking to some guys about it, and I'm like, that deer was just as pregnant during gun season. You could have shot it Thanksgiving weekend,
yeah,
right? And it's pregnant. You just don't see it. Or I don't know. It's like that's natural.
Billy probably just read Rob's comment, as did I.
No, it's.
Go to
I know, now that would be good eating.
Jesus Christ. Rob, you are a sick
negative,
bastard. Jesus.
For sure.
Yeah. I think that would definitely count.
If you find a fetus in your doe when you're gutting her, that's -5 points.
Rocky Mountain fetuses, Rob.
Oh my.
That's right.
But okay, so let's aside from that, just think about it. The way that this season played out, and a lot of people saw rutting activity early, like in the middle of October, like October 15th, October 25th, that window. So if, your point, Dad, you got November 10th is kind of like November, the first full week in November, first 10, 14 days, whatever. A lot of people feel like a lot of the breeding's happening then. But if this, there's a lot of people who had the theory that this was kind of one of those trickle rut years where you just had does kind of just periodically, just from basically for a month straight, just coming into estrus. You could have had those does could have been bred middle of October, right? And I mean, sure. that makes a difference from going from 6 weeks since getting impregnated to, 10, 12 weeks, which, I mean, that picture that I saw, Dallas, I mean, that was a freaking deer. Like, it's a fetus.
Oh, you saw a picture, Billy?
Yeah, Dallas tagged me in it and said, "This grinds my gears." So I knew that we were going to talk about that on here. But, that doe was bred early. Like, there's no doubt about it.
But
now,
what's that matter? Every doe, especially every adult doe, but like Dale said, every one of those deer is going to be pregnant, right? They're all pregnant. They're doe. If you're shooting a doe, you have to understand that it's probably carrying 2 fawns, right?
Well, yeah. Not on top of that, if you shoot a doe on October 1st, she's not pregnant, but she was gonna be if you didn't shoot her,
right?
Or if somebody didn't. I mean, she was gonna get pregnant. So
it's the way it works. I mean, that's what they procreate. That's what they do.
That's what they do.
Yep, they have to do that to survive. And you have to imagine that, so almost every doe you're shooting in gun season is essentially, she's pregnant, every one of them. Yeah, and if they aren't, they're going to be within the next few weeks, So it's, I'm not making a point. My point is it's very interesting to look at that and say, okay, what does that tell you about when she got impregnated? Because she obviously was bred early, like really early.
Yeah.
So that's what's interesting to me is that more than anything is that, it doesn't buy when it comes to, when I'm out deer hunting, I'm out to kill deer and fill my freezer. And on the piece of property I'm on, if that is a piece of property that I want to shoot does on, I used to be this way, but I don't anymore ever since I wanted to start killing deer.
Since you became a Kirsch?
Yeah, but since I became a Kirsch, if I have a doe and 2 fawns come out, I know there's a good doe population in the area, I'm not hesitant to shoot that mature doe because I know that those 2 yippers are going to be fine. They're going to end up linking up with another doe group. It'll all be all right. A lot of people get real sensitive about, shooting the does, and it's like at the end of the day, trying to put meat in the freezer and meat on the table. And I'm not really thinking about that. But this discussion adds another thing to think about, but it doesn't really change my approach to whether I'm shooting those does or not. You're just doing it, I guess.
Yeah. So, I don't really buy too much into the trickle rut thing because I think what they mean by that is that daylight movement that you notice during the rut is based on other factors, which generally people are saying the moon. So the deer are still getting bred at the same time, but you notice the movement differently that's the way I interpret what they call a trickle rut. But even still, there are deer. I mean, even when you talk about the bell curve theory, where the majority of the rut happens on or around November 15th, 14th, they still talk about a bell curve where it ramps up from earlier. So there still could be deer that are getting bred in late October, early November. I just think there's very few. I subscribe to the theory that most of them every year, no matter what, get bred in mid-November. But that's never to say that a doe doesn't come into heat early in mid to late October. And if you happen upon that situation where there's a hot doe in your area in late October, you better believe that every buck in the county is going to be on that doe.
Yep.
And it's the same thing as when it happens. I've seen it a couple times in mid-December where there was a hot doe, and my God, I mean, you'll have even more than in October. You'll have every damn buck that's still surviving at that time of year will be on that doe. I mean, it can be amazing when that happens. So one more I got for you. Like I say, it goes along the lines of regulations here. So the 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after sunset thing, honestly, for the most part, people have reacted positively to that. But I've still seen a lot of comments and heard it personally from people where they say 30 minutes is too much because you can't see to shoot safely most days 30 minutes after sundown. And that's true. I agree with that. But the law is written so that if you feel that you can ethically make a shot 30 minutes after sundown or 30 minutes before sunrise, that it is legal to do so. It still goes along with knowing your target, shooting ethically. So it's no different than saying a quartering to bow shot at 12 yards is. Some people say that's not an ethical shot. I would agree. So don't take the shot if it's not ethical. If you don't feel like you can properly execute that shot, it's no different than saying it's a cloudy afternoon. It's a little rainy. It's 5 minutes. A lot of times 5 minutes after sundown, you can't see. You got to pack up your shit and go home.
Right.
But we all know there's been plenty of nights where it's 30 minutes after sundown, and there's snow on the ground, and it's a halfway clear afternoon, and the full moon is out. You could damn near shoot at midnight if it was legal to do so.
Yeah.
So all they're doing with this law is saying that if it is ethical to do so, you are legally allowed to shoot 30 minutes each side of sunup and sundown. So I have a real problem with people saying that you can't, they're arguing the laws saying that you can't, that it's not okay. It's like, that's not what they mean by it.
Yeah.
It's situational. You need to play the situation you're in and make that decision on whether you can properly identify your target, like you were saying. I had plenty of evenings that I was hunting, with no snow, overcast night, something. It was legal till 5:09, but at 5 o'clock I was packing my stuff up and getting out of the tree because it wasn't worth it to me to try to squeak in a shot in the next 9 minutes when you really wouldn't have been able to tell what you were shooting at, other than the fact that it was probably a deer walking through the woods. So you need to make that call yourself. If it was snow, full moon, I would have sat there till 5:09, 5:10 and let it play out. But they're just putting it there so you can do it. I mean, anybody that's hunted for a long time knows damn well that people were doing it anyways. So
this just makes it so that it's legal, that you can make your own, as with everything, make your own choice on whether the shot is good or bad.
Yeah.
Identify what the animal is and whether or not it's a safe and ethical shot. It's no different than saying, well, I won't shoot at a running deer. Well, that's your decision to make, but that's not, everybody doesn't feel the same way. We all have to weigh every hunting situation and every shot that we take with our own ethics and our own abilities. It has nothing to do, they're not going to make a law that says you can't shoot at a running deer. So that's all. No big deal there, but there's a couple of things that have been eating at me a little bit lately.
Yep. Any further thoughts on that, Dad? You haven't said anything.
Well, no, it's just, I mean, well said, Dallas. I think it allows you to do so if you can ethically and safely do so. And it's like, I don't argue the point. It depends on, like, when I'm hunting deep in the woods or on the side hill in the hemlocks, I'm done before the guy that's hunting the field edge, right? It's
no doubt.
So, and it's like you put it very well. It's just you're making it legal to do so if it's safe and ethical, right? So, and I agree with the law, and I'll quit hunting, and I'm done shooting when I feel that it's that's my decision, right? I go, no, too dark for me. I'll tell you what, I see differently today than I did when I was 35 years old, like Billy or Jimmy. Yeah. Right. I don't, honest to God, I don't see as well in the dark. And when it starts getting dark, yeah, right. My little trick.
Yeah.
Like a damn handheld magnifying glass, right? But no, seriously, the darkness as you age, it gets worse too. So it's a personal decision, and I think the law is good because it allows you to stay out there that extra time if it's appropriate, and only the hunter themselves can make that call.
Yep.
Yeah. I want to just one last point on this is that I think they got pressure nationally. The QDMA was in on this. There was actually New York was getting quite a bit of attention. They actually showed up on the deer report last year, QDMA deer report. They touch on rules and regulations, and they were saying that New York was the last state that hadn't enacted before sunrise and after sunset laws. So they actually picked out New York and singled them out and basically told them you need to fix that shit.
Well, I can remember the hunting public when they were here during the Public Land Challenge. Like, I can remember them, like, specifically Zach, like, making the point, like, this is ridiculous. This is the only state we go to that we have to wait until, until this
Zach
time.
His car in broad daylight in the morning because he's like, well, I can't go hunting.
Guess I'll just drink some coffee.
Like, he made a big deal out of it. Like, this is fucking ridiculous that I can't go hunt out in the morning, because he's basically saying that I know myself. I can't go out there and not shoot at a deer if I need to. And of course, everything they do needs to be on the super up and up because everything's on film and,
right.
Say what you want about, whatever. But he's like, he kind of made a big deal. He's like, well, I can't go hunting. I might as well drive around in my car, So I'm very happy that they fixed that. And I hadn't heard any rumblings that they were going to. So it kind of surprised me when they did it. But I'm very thankful for the fact that they did that.
Yeah. So a couple things that grind my gears real quick. Not grinds my gears, but it kind of, I guess, topics similar to what you just talked about, Dallas, was the orange law this year. I know our group out here, Dallas, like our core group, I mean, we're always wearing orange. Dad, you guys at camp, you and Uncle Mike and a bunch of the other guys, Jimmy a lot of the time, wouldn't wear any orange. We're hunting private property. Everybody knows where everybody is. So there wasn't a lot of orange worn in the past. But, I got to say that I was really happy to see that law put into place. I feel like that's something that's a very simple law. At the end of the day, it's not going to affect whether you kill a deer or not, whether you're wearing blaze orange. And but I was kind of surprised and / disappointed. But I'm disappointed, not surprised, of how many people were just posting pictures online of them with the deer that they killed that look like, fresh, like right at the moment pictures of them sitting with the deer and blatantly not having any orange anywhere on them. And I'm kind of like surprised by that. Like, I do not understand the argument. I don't understand why that makes you feel like you're bowing to the man that you have to wear orange out in the woods. And I'll use a perfect example, and this is something that's going to be a very popular topic in the next year. Nationally, Colorado is, probably one of the biggest destination states for people to go hunt. And they're talking right now because they actually had a fatal shooting during muzzleloader elk deer. At the same time we were out there, they had an archer, get shot by a muzzleloader hunter because I'm out there this year. Like, I'm out archery hunting for elk, and the guys I'm hunting with are hunting mule deer, and they're wearing blaze orange. I'm not. We're sneaking around. I'm stalking on stuff, whatever. Like, accidents happen, and it seemed really silly. The thought came to my mind while I'm out there, like, wow, it's kind of crazy that I'm out here, like, walking around all these areas when there's muzzleloader hunters out here, and they could be taking shots at 100 to 150 yards in the timber, and they don't even know I'm standing here. And so I think you're going to see it become a highly discussed topic, and I really have zero issue with it. I feel like if they're going to put a season with gun hunters out there with gun period, I feel like there needs to be some sort of orange involved. And I think as a hunter, I think it's smart at least to be wearing a hat. If I'm archery hunting in Colorado again, I'm probably going to throw a blaze orange ball cap on because I'm concerned about that. So I don't know. I guess that's just my take on that law, on the orange thing, is I just don't get it. And I hope that people continue to embrace it that have kind of put up the front that they don't want to. So what's your thoughts, Dad?
I just want to say, after hunting in groups over the last couple days this week, I think it's awesome. We weren't wearing like orange jumpsuits, but everybody had an orange hat on or orange vest or both. And like yesterday, it was 3:00 in the afternoon, but it was a very dark afternoon. And the only way I spotted Jimmy way out in this green field looping around to push that buck on me, I spotted that orange cap. And the guys we were hunting with, they were coming through the bedding and the brush. It's real thick down below me, and I would just catch the orange cap. If you didn't catch the orange cap, you catch movement, right? So I just want to say that I think it was really nice. I like it. That's no big deal. Like you said, it makes no difference on your harvest as far as, your success or failure, whether you're wearing an orange knit hat or an orange ball cap or an orange vest or whatever. I think it was a great move. I mean, it's like we all go out there to have a good time. We all want to come back home to our families in the same condition we went out, right? It's just tragic when you hear these guys that get shot, gals that get shot. It's not worth it.
No.
So yeah, I think it was great.
I'd kill a deer in a damn Santa outfit if I had to. I don't.
Yeah, no doubt.
The colors don't bother me.
No.
It's definitely nice to be able to see each other. I mean, I think the other day all we were wearing was hats when we did the last muzzleloader hunt there. But I mean, that much orange just on your head, I mean, it really pops when you're coming through the woods. So yeah, there's no reason not to do it.
I'll tell
you what grinds my gears is I still don't see how people get shot. I mean, the only thing that I could see is a freak accident of not knowing the person is behind your target. That's the only way that I could see it happening, randomly. But if somebody's shooting its movement, and not identifying their target, that's just absolutely ridiculous.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
I'm fine with the orange too, but I will just say on your original point though, with people taking pictures, like I've taken pictures without orange on too, and I've always worn my orange since I was a kid. But sometimes you kill a nice buck and you sit down and take pictures, and maybe you take a couple layers off, and maybe your camo looks a little nicer without your orange on or something like that. So I wouldn't say that every one of them is maybe not hunting that way. It might not all be that way. I mean, I've heard plenty of people say I'm not wearing orange, which I've never understood. I know one reason why people don't wear orange is because when you see that a lot of that locally here is that people are going places where they're not supposed to be doing deer driving, so they take their orange off. Yeah. And that could be another reason for the law too, where you're going to get ticketed without your orange on, so that might make you a little less likely to go into some nature conservancy that's not supposed to be hunted, or a neighbor's property that's posted where you're not supposed to be. Now when you walk out to the road, there might be consequence to it or something like that too.
Yeah. Good point.
So the last thing I want to bring up here, topic-wise, is I think something for everybody to keep your eyes on as we head into the new year, and something that has been talked about, on the national scale, hunting-wise, is Washington recently had a popular vote that kind of went against their state's game agency to outlaw their spring bear hunt, and that successfully passed. Well, unsuccessfully if you're a hunter, successfully if you were an anti-hunter, somebody didn't want to see bear hunting happening, so they lost their spring season. So I'm bringing this up because I really think that as we move into this year and years moving forward, it's something that we talked about last week on the podcast, and hunters kind of banding together. It's important to grow our voice as hunters, grow people, even if people aren't hunters, to have a good image of hunters, and what it is that we do and what our piece is in the North American model of wildlife management is like, we are a piece of this, and these game agencies are making decisions on harvests and goals and everything else based off of population and what needs to be done to manage those populations. And, so this is just in the calendar year, in a 12-month window, Colorado had wolves essentially forced in on them. And that was a popular vote, and one that was extremely supported from the urban populations. And it was almost a dramatic line. It was a dramatic line. If you look at the areas that approved that change, it was the city of Denver and Boulder, and everyone west of the mountains there. Everybody west of the city voted that down. And now we saw this happen in Washington. New Jersey still has their bear ban. I know they're looking at overturning that because of how many problems that's created. British Columbia has a ban on bear hunting up there, period. You can't hunt grizzly bears at all. And so these things are happening. I think it's important just for people, we as whitetail deer hunters are so like laser focused on what we do, but it's a bigger picture thing. And I think what you're going to see happen with, especially, we hunt Colorado and we love going out there. I think you're going to dramatically see this change our experiences in Colorado, and not only the experience, but how often you can go there. They're the over-the-counter destination for elk, and I think you're going to see that change because, just basic logic is that the more predators you put on the landscape, the lesser the population of the elk is, and you're going to have less opportunity to go hunt. So, I actually heard I was listening to a podcast this week. I heard that somebody had a sighting of a wolf in Kremling. And Kremling's like central, it's central. It's not, it's 80 miles or so from Wyoming. But that's, you're getting into the interior of the state of Colorado. So, changes are coming. And, I think it's important as hunters that we become engaged in these things and be aware of these things and don't just bury your head in the sand because, ignorance is bliss in many ways, but it's also important to understand, there are a lot of people that don't like the way of living that we have, and they don't understand it, I think is the biggest issue. And, we need to be engaged and be looking at that stuff as we move into the new year and, voice your opinion. I think this year was great in New York. The DEC put out their deer management plan, and they gave people the opportunity to speak to that and to share their opinions. The same thing with the holiday hunt. And people did. I know a lot of people in our circles, sent the emails, gave their opinions, and that's great. That's people getting engaged and getting involved. And I would say we had a pretty awesome deer season here. And, it'll be fun to see how things change in the future, with that plan. But I think that's one thing I wanted to leave the discussion with here tonight as we move into 2022 is, keep your eyes open, be aware of some of these things that are happening nationally, because it can happen here at home too if we keep our eyes closed and don't continue to represent our communities well. So,
well, it kind of did get us a little bit, and that's part of my reason why I was having such an issue with the holiday hunt referendum, with them saying that they were going to allow counties to opt out, because our conservation department said that they recommended this holiday hunt. But then they turned around, and I can't believe they let it happen. Well, and then in the end, they didn't. But it scared us because they turned around and said, we're going to let public entities outside of conservation make a decision on whether or not we can have this season. And that's part of what really got me going about this whole thing to begin with, was that the conservation needs to be separate from public opinion.
Right.
And I know that public opinion is a part of conservation, but still it needs to be, those decisions need to be made by a conservation department. And that's what really, thank you, Billy, because this really does grind my gears with this whole bear hunting thing, because it's New Jersey, it's Washington, I think it's California, where they're letting public opinion decide that you can't hunt bears. And and then another level of this that really bothers me is that damn well that most of the people that are driving this change are on the left side of the political spectrum, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those are the same people that will scream at you about science. Science is real. Trust the science. All this. I do trust the science. My conservation department shows me the science that says we need to have a bear hunt in our state. And if they decide that it's time that we don't have one anymore based on scientific facts, then let them make that decision.
Not at the ballot box. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Those two things should not cross over.
No, they shouldn't.
Or one shouldn't overrule the other. I get
you hired
public opinion is okay, but the conservation is what needs to make this decision in the end.
You hired people in the DEC to do all this stuff and, manage all of it and watch the numbers and make sure everything's going the way it's supposed to be going. And then you're going to put it out and tell them they can't do their job. I mean, it's, like you said, Dallas, if they came and said, hey, our bear population is not doing well, let's take a couple of years off. That's,
And hunters would be fine with that.
Fine.
Yeah, if they come out to us next year and say we're lowering doe permits in these areas by X percent because the harvest was up last year, that's fine. We don't want to see that population get decimated. We're in this we are in this for the long haul too. We want to see what's best for the herd. So yeah, it's a concerning thing to me. I think it's something that we have to all watch and have to be aware of, and it's not conspiracy theory. This stuff is happening. We're watching it happen, and it's happening like quickly. And I think it's one of the things that really frustrates because people are bitching and complaining about crossbow seasons and wearing blaze orange, and they're not concerned about whether we're going to lose the right to literally go out and hunt. Period.
They don't have their eye on the ball.
Yeah. So I think, and that's one of the complaints I've got with all the different, like I've been engaged with all these different conservation organizations. And I think one of the things that's a problem is that everybody's so spread thin. Like everybody's chasing all these different things. And it's like, well, what's the main concern is us continuing to be able to hunt. And so like, I'm always battling with those things where it's like, what am I spending my time and energies on here? Like, what are we doing to help grow this stuff? That's one of the reasons why me personally over the last year and a half, 2 years, I've really started doing a lot with National Deer Association because I feel like they're doing a lot to get new people into hunting. Like they've got active programs that are like bringing people in and showing them how to do it step by step. Like that's something that a lot of organizations they're not necessarily focused on. So like, I think, it's finding, whether it's finding the organizations that will align with you and what your ideas are, or it's, or just getting engaged to be aware of what sort of things are happening in your space. And I'll just say, if people aren't subscribed to the New York Outdoor News, you got to do it for the $30 a year. It costs $35, whatever it is. I haven't renewed my subscription. I need to. I got the paper here that's reminding me of it. But I mean, the topics that they're covering, the things that they're hammering on, it's outstanding. And I think as an outdoorsman, and women here in New York, I think you have to be tuned into what's going on here. And Dan Ladd and his team are doing an outstanding job with that paper hitting on these topics and covering these issues. Like it's just outstanding. So, get engaged in 2022, be aware of what's going on. I think, it's our duties as citizens of this country to just be aware of what's going on and let your voices be heard and step up when something doesn't seem right. Approach it appropriately, but don't just sit back and say, well, somebody else will take care of it, because I don't think you can rely on that. So,
it's interesting you talk about the popular vote, right? And how many people are actually sportsmen, hunters. But, you think about the Stephen Rinella and Matt Rinella debate, right, over drawing more people into it. And then we look at went to online for the course here in New York during the pandemic and what the increase of license sales was. But, to keep our traditions and our passion alive, it's better to have more people that understand it, right? And that are engaged in getting into the activity. So that's not a bad thing. It's not for everybody. Some people might try it and not like it. But if you never get into, if you never try deer hunting, you'll never have a reason to go to the hunt works, and that would be a thing. The hardworking sons of guns over there,
They'd be out of business, them poor sons of bitches.
Yeah, they'd be out of business.
Yep. All right. Well, we are going on 2 hours here, so we'll start to round this thing out. Speaking of the Hunt Works, I was talking to Dan yesterday, and they're gonna have a big booth set up at the outdoor show. Huh?
They have 5% off now for new customers if you go on their webpage.
5% off. Is that
automatic 5% off the top of everything?
Is that right, Dad?
Yeah.
We'll have to fact check that.
I checked it before I came on here.
Oh, okay. 5% off for new customers.
I just wanted to give them a boost. I'm a big supporter of that organization, and they've taken good care of me. So.
Yes, they have. They no doubt they have. All those deals you've gotten. Yeah. Yeah, in Dallas, I did talk to Dan yesterday about getting a spare parts for that buck hut, so that it is possible. We're gonna file it under warranty for natural disaster. Yeah. But yeah, so they're gonna have a big booth set up at the Syracuse Outdoor Show. That's the last weekend of January. So I plan on going up there. I'm gonna try to. I think it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday is the show. I'm gonna try to spend at least a day or two up there with them. They're going to let us hang out in the booth and help them out. So any of you guys that want to, Big Jim or Dad, or if you guys want to come up there and help them out, they're looking for some help to man the booth. And we'll probably have the podcast stuff set up. So if anybody wants to jump on and do a show or chat about anything, we can do that. And in the same vein, we've got Shedfest is coming together right now. I'm working on all the different sponsors. We've got the shirt designed. I put a little teaser up of that. It's a pretty cool design that Russ Morgan put together for us. Pickup truck with actually the horns on the hood are the winning match set last year from Todd MacArthur there. So pretty cool that he was able to integrate that into the design this year. But we're going to get that started here in the first week or so of January. We'll get that put up on the website. People can start buying the shirts and the entries. And what we're going to do this year, instead of we talked a lot about it and thought hard about how we wanted to handle it. I think what we're going to do is we're actually going to do more of a raffle setup rather than a category with winners. And so everybody that buys in and buys a shirt, they're going to get a membership, a 1-year membership to the National Deer Association. You'll also get the T-shirt. So that's what your entry is going to, you're going to get the shirt, you're going to get the 1-year membership, and then you're going to get one entry to the raffle. And then we'll draw the raffle at the end. And I was talking with Windy Brew, and I think we might do some sort of a party at sometime in April to wrap out the contest or the Shed Fest and do the live do a live drawing of the stuff there. And got a really good list of stuff, a lot of gift cards to different people that we've worked with. They're going to have some gift cards for us. I think I'm going to buy a Kafaru pack and have that be the grand prize. I don't know if I'm going to buy it. I might just do a gift card because I think a lot of people might want to pick out, and there might be different sizes and stuff. So probably going to do a Kafaru pack essentially is what I'm going to do. I think that'd be a sweet ass first prize for that, and it's something that a lot of people would probably be interested in and might not want to spend the money on. So that's what we've got planned for Shedfest, and the horns are dropping already. So, if you're finding them, get out there and find them now.
What'd
you say, Dallas?
We found one today.
Did you?
It wasn't a shed. It was actually broken, but with a 5-point side from a 2-year-old. AJ found it, but Emma's in possession of it now. It was actually broken off, but it's pretty cool.
That is cool.
She carried it around all day.
Howie found a great set of sheds yesterday that still had blood on them. He must have just dropped them within the last day or two. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, so that's what we've got coming up, and looking forward to 2022 and seeing how the podcast grows. It's been a good deer season. The numbers are up on the listeners and the downloads. So appreciate all of you supporting us and all of you that especially the 4 of you guys, 3 of you guys have been big supporters, and look forward to you retiring, Dad, so you can have more time to get on here and do more of this stuff with us. So
I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yep.
In the meantime, I'll just keep feeding them.
Keep getting them kids to school.
That's right.
Big Jim.
You gonna post any pictures from yesterday, Billy? Like, when we were crowning the champ or anything?
Yeah, I got to post that up. I've been thinking I got to get I think I'm going to do like somehow like a video post with a picture of the song that John Jones comes out to. It's like, the champ is here. The Eminem song. Yeah. I got the whole image is like in my head of what I want it to look like. So yeah, I'm gonna put that out probably at the end of the day tomorrow when the sun goes down and I can officially just cry myself to sleep. So, all right. Well, I think that's enough to wrap her up. It was a good show. Thanks for everybody tuning in. We had some people on Facebook and on Bullhorn.
Nice.
I'm possibly on YouTube as well. I'll check that out later and see if anybody tuned in there. But thank you everybody for joining us, and Happy New Year. Tomorrow's New Year's, so be safe. Don't drive and drink, or drink and drive, or any of those combination of things. Be smart. Stay home, and don't be a fool. Wrap your tool.
Hey, thanks for a great season, and thanks to the DEC and New York State for our holiday hunt.
Yep, very grateful for that.
It was awesome.
Yep,
It was all right.
Happy New Year's.
See you, everybody. Thank you.
feeding 'em.
Keep
Yeah.
feeding them.
Ate 'em.
Feed 'em.